Hey, so I got a lot of connections about these temples, but the problem with that is we don't have enough context to fully connect everything. So I'm just gonna be throwing things at you that have connections, and since I'm doing this unscripted, I'll be playing the game too. Plus more stuff for you to look at, right? Alright, so my friend Alps pointed out to me how these temples are very similar to a civilization that was from ancient Earth. That civilization would be the Maya. Now, the Maya did a lot of sacrifices, and they researched the stars a lot. And they also documented moon phases. This lines up with a lot of stuff we've been seeing at these temples. We know Optimus Prime, he's been talking about stars a lot, and the apparatus seems to be looking into space. And also, the sacrifices I'm referring to in these temples would be the coffins, and I'm pretty sure the vases you see here, these are urns. Oh, and not to mention, like, these guys, yeah, they sometimes have offerings at their feet. So, seems like these guys are a symbol of worship. The whole stars thing, it reminds me of Stellan a lot. You guys get what I mean, right? Because he talks about stars all the time. It's like, stars help us, stars will guide us, or whatever. Talks a lot about worshipping stars in a way. Here we got a prism. Should probably bring that to Trace. Hello? Oh hey, look, it's Trace! They're dead. Now, Stellan, he had to research stuff for the Rift Gate, which makes me think that these people could also have connections to rifts, especially since Relic, he can rift, and like we already see that his armor is based a lot off of these people, like their masks and stuff. This isn't the best example, it's a lot more similar to the other statues. These ones. Ow, jeez! I'm just gonna go over here. So I believe that Relic is basing his technology off of these ancient people to research it. I mean, he is, like, trying to figure out all the island secrets, so he's probably researching this place a ton. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like looking into the stuff they created. Someone looked into some exiled sages to figure out stuff about rifts. And that makes me think that these people actually were the exiled sages. So the whole exiled sages thing, if it is these people, makes me wonder why they're exiled, and it also makes me think that it's related to why they disappeared. It could also be where Stellan got the idea of stars from, and maybe he was even a part of these exiled sages. You know, Slone has that dialogue with him where it's like, I know what you are even if you don't. Maybe something happened that made him lose his memory, but he actually was a part of these exiled sages. I don't know, maybe the Ageless put him into the loop. I mean, he is the head Rift Warden, so it makes sense if he was originally part of those exiled sages and had the knowledge from them. Maybe he does know, but considering Sloane's dialogue with him, he probably doesn't, and that'd probably be what he doesn't know. That also brings me to some other mysterious people that have been mentioned before that we know like nothing about, and once again, that makes me think of the people in the temple. And I just died. Okay. That would be the old guardians that Raz mentions back in Chapter 2, Season 6. I previously thought that those were just the Spire Guardians, but back then he literally asked us to kill a Spire Guardian, so I don't think that's the old Guardians he's referring to, because he seems to have a lot of respect for the old Guardians, and the Spire Guardians he does not. He also talks about how during the quest we have to kill some animals, and he talks about it in a sacrificial way. He says after that once we kill them, that the old Guardians will bless our endeavors. First of all, that sounds similar to how Stellan talks about stars. And second of all, that's very sacrificial. It's a lot of sacrifice sort of stuff. So, the people in the temples, the ancients, they're probably both the exiled sages and the old guardians. Also, about the Spire Guardians and the old guardians thing, the people, their helmets in the temples, they're pretty similar to the Spire Assassin and the Spire Guardians, the ones in game. Like, the Spire Guardians in that smaller statue, they have almost the exact same helmet design, and it's a bit more iffy with the Spire Assassin and the big statue that's in the middle of the temples, but they are pretty similar. If these guys are the old guardians, then that implies that these temples came before the primal era. And I'm going to lead with that because Raz says that something terrifying created the Spire. Maybe the reason why these people disappeared is because they did something that created the Spire. Another connection between the exiled sages and the old guardians, it just leads back to Stellan and Raz, because Raz says that the Spire called to him in his dreams, and Stellan says the same thing about the Shapeless Man. And we know the Spire has dark magic in it. Let me just get this out of the way. I believe the Shapeless Man is the Nothing. But that's pretty suspicious, isn't it? Because let's say these people did create the Spire, and the Spire called to Raz in his dreams, just like the Shapeless Man did with Stellan. Maybe the Nothing is related to these people. I know a lot of people have been talking about how these statues, they could be related to the last reality. Just the temples in general. And I can definitely see that. Another thing about the exiled sages, they did have that prophecy about a beautiful monster enabled by the hubris of a champion. Now, the whole prophecy thing is weird to me because we've actually seen a character create prophecies before, and that was Dark Jonesy. And he did that through the spirit realm. Now, the spirit realm, souls, and stuff like that have been mentioned pretty often. I talk about that a lot in one of my previous videos, so go watch that if you want a bit more context to the whole spirit realm thing. But Dark Jonesy was able to have a prophecy because of the spirit realm. He basically tapped into it, and somehow that led to having a prophecy, which I thought was pretty interesting. Now, these people have a lot of sacrifices, right? What if they have sacrifices so that the people can predict the future? Now, the Maya, they also had prophecies. They also believed that everything has a soul. I'd also like to mention that the Maya, they believed that butterflies were actually their ancestors visiting and wishing them well from death. So, I don't know, that could be a weird thing about butterflies, rift butterflies. I do have my suspicions that rift butterflies are actually free spirits. Now, what do I have to say about the apparatus? Not much, honestly. It's very unexplained so far, but I will say, Relic has a loading screen where he's looking at planets and stuff through a hologram. And what this reminds me of is a planetarium projector, where they project things, like galaxies and stars and planets and stuff, onto a dome, so that you can look into them. And we do hear Sloane say that the apparatus is some sort of astral projector. That might just be another example of Relic going back to their old technology and trying to recreate it. Speaking of Relic, he actually has some special dialogue with Aura about the chalice. He actually reached out to her to help her find the chalice. I still think, even though Aura rejected him, that he could still be working with her to find the chalice. Aura does mention a person she'd be giving the chalice to. Maybe that was actually Relic. The chalice is a strange artifact. Apparently it has enough power to level the whole island, whether that be what actually happens or not. But that sure is a lot of power. Optimus Prime says that there's artifacts on the island, which would guide us to what we're supposed to see in the sky. I have no idea how that's supposed to work, but that makes me think it's just the prisms. But if the chalice is related to it, then that might explain why it has so much power. We know Optimus Prime has been talking to Sloane, and the messages we've heard, he's probably also talked to Sloane about. Now, I'm very confused about the whole Sloane thing. I have no idea what she's trying to plan or how she plans to do it. I think that's just something we're going to have to wait and see. I'm hoping that's going to give us a bit more details about a lot more things that aren't right in front of us. Especially these old guardians and exiled sages and just the people in these temples in general. Ow, my legs. Sloane does say that there was a message left behind that she believes was meant for her. Now, I'm just thinking that that was about Optimus Prime. Kinda weird how it was meant for her, but maybe it was just in the way that she had the knowledge needed for it. If the message to Sloane wasn't from Optimus Prime, though, I think it could have to do with her ancestors, and maybe they actually lived here. We don't know that much about Sloane's past, but for some reason she was a kid genius, and Sloane says that these people were scientists and visionaries. Now, how does this even come about? Well, the answer lies within Era and Shanta. Shanta has to do with her past generations a lot, in the way that her past generations sort of live with her, like her ancestors and stuff. Which is pretty strange, but it seems to be through the gems that she collects. I think she literally has spirits in her armor that give her power and gives her wisdom. Maybe in the same way that Dark Jonesy gets his prophecies. This whole thing is being brought up again with Era in this season's Battle Pass, and I think it's no coincidence that the Slone thing is happening at the same time. I mean, actually, it could totally be a coincidence, but still strange how it's being brought up again. Era's stuff, it's almost the exact same thing as, like, Shanta's descriptions and stuff. Very strange. Literally same color scheme, too. And it's also worth mentioning how these prisms, they're the same gem as Shanta's, even though they don't look exactly the same. Oh, hi! Oh, wow, speaking of Era. As you can see here, it literally says that Era's ancestors beckon her towards her destiny. And that might be the same thing that's happening with Slone. Just to add a little bit more onto this, there's actually 2 survey skins in the Battle Pass that I feel like could be Slone's parents. They both have similar designs, and they also feel like how I'd imagine if these ancient people were actually brought to life again. Or maybe that's just how they looked in the past. I actually want to talk a bit more about the shapeless man and nothing thing, and how that's weirdly connected to these people. Annoyingly enough, that's just with assuming that they're the exiled sages and old guardians. The last reality do feel very sacrificial, just in the way that you give up your life to the nothing, as we've seen with Raz, Bites, and possibly even Stellan. Now, this is definitely just a hypothesis, loosely based off of everything we've seen, but what if one of these people were actually the nothing? I know a lot of people disagree with the idea that the nothing is a person, but I think it would be interesting. Now the nothing, it's very implied that there's multiple people related to it. When Bites talks to the nothing, it constantly says us. There's multiple people. Now, is that specifically a part of the nothing? It's a little hard to tell, but there is one clear voice in whispers in the background.
You're not the one we're looking for.
Who says that the nothing has to be only one thing? Like, it could totally be a person, a state of reality, a group of people. And that's really all the things that I think the nothing is. Let me explain this a bit more. Let's say the shapeless man is the nothing. That's still a shapeless man. It isn't multiple people. What if it's actually that there's one person puppeteering all these spirits to be the nothing? Like someone who wants control over the spirit realm, and they create the nothing. The spirit realm is obviously outside of existence. It's another realm, and spirits, they don't have bodies. That could totally be the nothing. We know the nothing is also a place between realities. So, considering the sacrifices here, maybe these old people, they tried to control the spirit realm from existence, and with one person who guided them all, that being this statue. I say that because this person is in the center of everything, and I'm pretty sure that's the biggest statue out of all of these. That also line up with the Spire Assassin and Spire Guardian thing, because the Spire Assassin ruled over everyone, while the Spire Guardians were a bit of a lower status, it seemed. So these people would be the lower status people, maybe the average clothing for everyone who lived here. Or who knows, maybe they had a right-hand man. This all makes me believe that this man, he died, and just to be a bit more climactic, he probably was killed. It'd make the most sense, honestly. I believe after this person was killed, he still had authority over spirits. The spirits were guided by what he did while he was alive. So, that's how the nothing we now know was created. I'm guessing after his death, maybe a little afterwards, or maybe it's how he died, he created the Spire. That's why that person, the nothing, the shapeless man, called to Raz in his dreams as the Spire because he created it. Maybe Stellan was actually the Raz of the past. I mean, to be clear, Raz probably wouldn't have become that dark, evil version of himself if it wasn't without our help. So, there probably was someone else in the past, the actual past, not the one that we brought onto the island, who went through the same thing as Raz and became that corrupted version, except he was saved by Geno. That's what I'd guess. Maybe through that process, that's how he lost his memories. But that's actually why the shapeless man is sort of embedded with him. Stellan did say that when he was young he did hear from the shapeless man, Same way that when Raz was a boy, the Spire called to him. So it seems like Stellan had a past with the Shapeless Man. And that brings me back to how he was a part of the Exiled Sages, and how these people are the Exiled Sages. And that's how the Exiled Sages got that prophecy, and maybe the beautiful monster is the Shapeless Man. I'm really just spitballing things now. I mean, this isn't like the most evidence I've had for a theory, but it sure does connect well, doesn't it? And it's a pretty enticing plot. Should probably also mention how the Maya, when their kings of their civilizations died, they had special sacrifices for their death. They also believed that the kings became rulers in the afterlife. Pretty fitting, right? That's not where it stops though, because they actually thought the stars were rulers. That might explain the whole stars thing. In what way, it's hard to tell, but that might explain why these people have so much to do with stars in the first place. Anyways, I think that's actually all our connections. Maybe I should stop talking about theories now so I can win this game. No, honestly, I don't have much to say about the other mural. I know, like, the moon thing is weird. And, like... Ow! Ow! Jeez! As soon as I start talking about lore! Jeez! Dude, please. Please! I'm not good at the game. I'm a FORTNITE theorist. I swear... Maybe I should just stick to theories.